Assalamu alaikum to everybody, and it's a big zchus that we can come together and we could meet Rav Gerzi, Rabbi Tzvi Broker, and Chazda Hashem, hopefully we'll have something to share with you that is relevant, something to share with you that is useful, relevant, useful, and Be'ezras Hashem, it should give us something to think about, to upgrade our lives in good, healthy ways. Be'ezras Hashem is Baruch, Rabbi Broker.
Thank you very much, Rabbi Gerzi, and I really just want to give a big kol hakavod to everyone who's here. You know that it's a funny thing when we speak about the topic of work-life balance, and people are like, "I want to come, but life is too busy." It's like a bit ironic, obviously the thing that's part of the challenge that so many of us are facing, and it's really with tremendous appreciation for everyone who's tuning in, and tremendous excitement to be able to open up this webinar speaking about this topic of work-life balance. Of Be'ezras Hashem, we're going to be dedicating the next 3 months in the Work Inspired Chabura to really uncover and really empower the Chabura in this topic. And in Work Inspired, where really the vision of this organization is about bridging this gap that exists for so many people between the worlds of Ruchnius, the worlds of Avoda Hashem on one side, right, and the world of Gashmius, the world of materialism, the world of work, the world of finance. Right, that within our conversations with people, we've heard time and time again, right, the need to speak about work-life balance. And personally, for me, it was tremendously validating, right? Because the chevra that some of the chevra on this call have been in our chabura, so you know this about me. But for those of you that are first meeting me here today, one of the amazing things I love about being in this chabura is the ability to be able to be real. And I myself have gone through different stages of my life. I spent time in yeshiva, I spent time in kollel, and I know for myself, as I went through those different stages of being single and then being in kollel and being married and then shifting into to children and then children getting older, right? Something that I found for myself are these feelings of like confusion, right? What is my life? What is this frum lifestyle meant to look like? And along with that confusion comes along feelings of guilt, comes along feelings of like realizing that I know at any given moment that I'm just allowing things to slip by. And I myself have found myself feeling this, what we call work-life conflict, which is like, really, what is it that HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants? We know that the Torah speaks a lot about the importance of leaving the Torah. We know that the Torah speaks a lot about the importance of shalom bayis. We know that the Torah speaks a lot about the importance of parnasa. But where in the Torah do we find this conversation and this guidance for how to be able to do it all? Do it all in a way that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is looking at us and he's saying, yeah, that is the way I want you to live. And I know for myself, it was very, very confusing for a very long time to be able to come to this emes. I knew though that the Torah definitely has something that is there to guide us how to get there.
Baruch Hashem, I don't know if you're the only one that experiences that. It's conversations that Reb Tzvi and myself have very often with people, that there's this reality check. Do I look at all of these different elements within my normative daily living as separate entities, or am I meant to integrate? Is there meant to be an echad? Is there meant to be an achdus? And the nakuda is that really we are meant to give proper attention to every different element, and we're meant to be as well productive. And this inyan of productivity is something incredibly important, because on one hand, if we look out at the landscape of Yiddishkeit, there's a strong emphasis to be productive. And on a certain respect, to be productive, sometimes we end up being worn out thin. So how do we hold all of these different elements?
And work-life balance seems to be this phrase that people throw out as the solution.
So there's work-life balance. I'd say there's a work-life rhythm. There's a rhythm, there's a cadence that we need to be aware of and that we need to live with. And the nakuda is that Yiddishkeit speaks to this, and Yiddishkeit as well has actually a very sophisticated approach, and it's very common. It's an approach that's probably very familiar to us once I say it, and people don't necessarily put it in the conversation that we are speaking to right now. And that's Derech Eretz Im Torah. Derech Eretz Im Torah is a conversation of recognizing that, number one, you have what we call Derech Eretz. And it's true to say that we actually, within halacha, have different names. We have different names for different things that we do. So, Parnasa is called a Derech Eretz, but there are other areas of life that are called Derech Eretz as well. Shalom Bayis is called Derech Eretz. The way that we relate to people is called Derech Eretz. So this Nakuda of the Torah recognizing this element of what we call Derech Eretz and all the different parts within what we call Derech Eretz and Torah, there's a conversation to be had. And it's a very important conversation to be had. But one thing that I think is very, very important to take note of is that when we're speaking about this rhythm, the only way you can really start to tap into this rhythm and this cadence is if we slow down. If we slow down. If a person is mindlessly going from one activity to another activity and they are not aware of what they are doing, then we get lost. We get lost in the noise. We get lost in all of the psychobabble that's going on. And there's one little trick. There's one tool. There's an Avoda, a technique that we use. We call it GPS. GPS. What's GPS? So G stands for goals. That in any given area, we want to know what our goals are in that area. We want to know in the several layers of the areas of living. We want to know, what's my goal for eating? What's my goal for traveling to work? What's my goal when I get to work? What's my goals with learning? So you've got G. G is goals. G, P, what is P? Prioritizing. So this involves as well mindfulness, having the ability to really be settled in the moment, so you can assess right now what's my priority. GP, priorities. In the given moment, what demands my attention in this moment? And the more mindful I am, with an understanding that obviously there are different goals in life and different goals within goals, the P, the presence, and the prioritizing is something that becomes a lot more fluid. But then we've got another, the S, which is scheduling. Which scheduling in the various areas of my life, I want to explore the best, most expansive and deepest way of how things should be in the mind, in the ideal. How should things be? For most people, it's an interesting metzias, is that maybe they schedule certain different areas of their life and that's it. I mentioned the goal of traveling to work, because there's one yid, G, he has a goal when he travels to work, he learns Mishnayos. P is prioritizing. So when he gets on the train, he finds a space, he sits down, and he thinks to a minute, okay, right now my priority is Mishnah, but is there anything else that I need to deal with? And he already scheduled. His ideal is when he gets on the train and he wants to learn Mishnayos, that's already set in. So you've got this scheduling, which is incredibly important. Throughout my day, I schedule. Through scheduling, I know what my purpose is and the nakuda of prioritizing in a given moment. And then the nakuda of prioritizing is that I'm with what's going on. So actually life in all different demographics of normative everyday living, GPS becomes far more meaningful and purpose-driven.
Yeah, I think it's very powerful, and powerful and simple at the same time. But we're so familiar with this idea of GPS is what guides us and takes us where we need to go to. And I know from being one of these people, is that we can often get caught off so much caught up in the scheduling. There's a great children's story that's become one of my favorite stories after reading it to my kids. For a while in my life, reading to my kids before they went to sleep became a Musar Seder. There you go. It's like work-life balance. Musar Seder while reading to your kids. And the story about a person who had a list, And he had everything worked out because he had his schedule, everything on his list, and he would just go through his day, and he's like, now I know what I need to do because I have my list. And he's like, on his list was taking a walk with his friend, and while he's walking, there's a big wind that comes and blows away his list. And his friend's like, let's go catch it. And he says, no, I can't, because it's not on my list. It's not on my list to go catch my list. I can't go catch my list. And it's very deep, because sometimes we can get caught in the scheduling. And when we get caught in the scheduling, we don't realize that sometimes our priorities are changing, and sometimes our goals might be changing. Right, and as Rav Gerzi said beautifully, that the self-awareness and the mindfulness is so essential, because if you may have worked out at a certain stage of your life the way that you want your schedule to look, and then something changes, your job changes, your spouse has different needs, a child suddenly needs more attention, you're like, but I have my schedule. That's where a lot of the stress happens for me, because it's like, I have my schedule. So the GPS, right? What was the initial GPS that we have? We're coming out of Mitzrayim, marching through the Midbar. The Ananiya Kavod was our GPS. We didn't know where we were going, but we knew that Hashem was taking us there. And I think being real with the moment, being fluid, like you said, not getting caught up in this Hollywood vision of everything is perfect. At the same time, everything is being given its right attention, but this rhythm is what allows us to be able to get there. The question is that even once we've taken that step, right, and that is a step to take, it's just to really think about what are all my goals in all my areas of my life. Right? Just take a second and think for yourself. Do you have that clear right now in the different roles you play? Student, parent, spouse, child, grandparent, whatever stage of life you're in. Do you have it clear that right now, if I put you on the spot, you can tell me what all your goals are? I think many people don't. So we need to do that, and we have our priorities in our schedule, but it's still a lot. Let's be honest, it's really a lot. I was thinking about it today. Thank God, I was complaining because I don't like the long beard, but when we're trying to manage all the things of work-life balance, at least we don't have to shave during Sefiras Omer if you're a man, right? So it's like one less thing we have to do. But we have so many things to do, right? We have so many things to do, right? Our lives are so complex. How do we get it done?
I think as well, there's a couple of nakudas that you brought up, which is really important, and that's where we are in life. So if we're very static in our growth, I may be living as a parent of 4 children with a mindset of a bocher in yeshiva.
Yeah.
So that I think
there.
is really important. The GPS, the G, having the goals. P is prioritizing, which is assessing what's needed right now, and then scheduling, having that schedule, but having that flexibility. That if the list flew away, either I can write a new list or I could run after it, even though it's not written on my list. But there's another layer which I think is really important, and that's to do with this being centered and being present. There's an idea that we speak about, and the idea that we speak about is an idea of, I've forgotten what it's called. What's it called? Monotasking?
Multitasking.
Monotasking and multitasking. So if you look at the research, multitasking is really a myth. It really doesn't work. You look at the science and the data, it doesn't work. And in fact, it drains us of energy. Really what we want is monotasking. What's monotasking? It's placing our attention on that thing that we are doing at that point in time. It reminds me of a story. One of the Rebbes, I think it was Reb Moshe Kobrina, forgive me if I'm mistaken, I think it's the Kobrina. The Kobrina had a chosid who in Limit HaTorah was far greater than the Rebbe. And after the Kobrina was nifta, there was somebody who asked, why is it that you came to the Rebbe when, it's a known thing that you are on a greater darga in Limit HaTorah. So he said something very interesting. He said because the Rebbe was fully engaged, monotasking. Whatever he did, he was 1,000% present. And that's something really, really important, because then what happens, you actually may do a fewer things during the day, but when you get to the end of the day, you're far richer. You're far more wealthy, because you can really, instead of thinking, oh, 1 minute, did I do this, did I do that, your scattered brain You've been present through the day, and through being present through the day, you collect all these gems. And there's an Avoda of when we go to sleep, you could be aware of that. So how do we engage in that? So we've got 4 steps, and we speak about this in the Chabura. The first step is Bechina, it's called Ratzon. Bechina of Ratzon, which can translate as will, but Ratzon as well has another meaning. And that's very, very simple. Ratzon is how much do I care? How much do I care? And based on the Mesilas Yesharim and based on others, how much do I care is the Yesod of Iyar Shamayim. It's the Yesod of how I live with awe of Hashem. How much I care, because what you find is Iyar Shamayim is very much to do with Kavanah, it's very much to do with being present. So how much do I care? And that's something incredibly important. And if I don't care about something, if I miss out this step, then I'm decreasing my availability to be present in the moment. Because when you care about something, mamash, you want to be with it. So how much do I care is the bechina of Ratzon. And Ratzon is something incredibly important. How much I care. The next is strategic planning. What is strategic planning? Strategic planning is having the ability to manage our time and to work out exactly what I want to be doing. Now, this is something incredibly important. Why it's very, very important? I'll tell you a diuk. A lot of people, when they are working and speaking about this nakuda of work-life balance and work-life rhythm, something has to be taken into consideration, which a lot of people do not take into consideration. And I think this is why this nakuda is very, very important for the Chabura that we're speaking about here. And that is that most books are dealing with either first of all, it's coming from a non-Jewish perspective, which may not be so bad. But what's the difference between a person who is secular to a person who is shomer Torah mitzvahs? So really the big difference is that, number one, we're far busier. Our intentions are completely different. And this actually may cause conflict. How many people I've spoken to where they are reading books to do with work-life balance and work-life rhythm. However, it's missing out the Yiddish shomer Torah or mitzvahs component, and it causes them tension. And that's something to think about. I think that's something very real to think about. We've spoken about it, and I think there needs to be a conversation. We have to look at by the non-Jews, they have chokhmah, and we have to look at that chokhmah, but we have to take into consideration how we live our life. So give you a prime example, I have a friend of mine who was reading a book, and it's about how you start your day. It's about and it's a fantastic book, I've read it. And he starts his day, he gets up, he's got kids in the house, and through the kids coming into the house, they usually wake him up. Then he has to get ready, get the sandwiches ready if he hasn't gotten ready the night before. Then he's got going to shul, and he goes to mikveh. So before he started, he has to get up like 3 o'clock in the morning just to get ready for his kids getting up and out the house. But the point is that the book, he actually got onto a group call with the book, and majority of the people honor this course with this particular book that he was reading. Most people had 1 or 2 kids, if any kids, and their mornings were completely different. If they prayed, it was a prayer of option. They had the option not to pray, and they got up first thing in the morning. The house was mesudar and clean and tidy. It wasn't having all of these extra pressures upon us, and I think that's something very important to think about. The other nakuda is that actually Torah has a lot of wisdom in how we can look at our scheduling and how the memory works. So there's chunking, strategizing in terms of chunking our time, different ways of looking at time and coding time, and that's something very important as well. Torah is the blueprint, and it has ways in order to help us. So the first shlav is rats on how much I care. Then you've got strategizing. The third is transitioning. And again, transitioning is something very important, not necessarily spoken about as often as it should be. We call it in our community change and transition. Change is moving from one area of life to another area of life. And when we're speaking about change, moving from one area to another area of life, the metzius is change is quite natural. So if we look through COVID, change was happening pretty much all the time. And people were very obedient. And people are obedient with change. The question is internally transitioning, emotionally, where are you in that relationship? So what we're seeing is because people, even from COVID, which was a number of years ago, you look at the science, the data, the change was very quick and very radical. The transitioning has affected people until today. People psychologically are still not fully present. And we see it, actually, this is Sfasemes, Yozeda, the Heilige Sfasemes. What does Sfasemes say? Why do we have to have Lel Seder every single year? Because the change was very, very quick. We left very quickly. The transitioning, the internal psychological processing happened so quickly we didn't have enough time internally to catch up. So the transitioning will take many, many thousands of years. Lel Seder. So this nakuda of transitioning is incredibly important, that I kiss the mezuzah, I'm moving from one domain to another domain. The external change is met with an internal psychological repositioning of where I am internally. What mindset do I need to be in? How do I need to turn up to this? So obviously we know a person can come to mincha and they could be davening, but in their mind they're still at work. So the transitioning wasn't as fluid. And then we've got one more nakuda, which is called environmental management. Environmental management. And that is that the environment, the spaces that I am within, those spaces are conducive to actually what I want to achieve. So by trade, I'm a physical therapist and I work in nutrition. From the nutrition side, I remember my teacher would always say, and it's mamash a davar emes, 0 is better than 1. So if somebody is trying to change their eating habits, I don't like to use the word diet because any word that has the word die in it, I try to stay away from. So when a person is changing their eating habits, if they're staying off sugar, it's better not to have anything to do with sugar in your local environment to test you. So 0 is better than 1. So is your environment set up for success? Is your environment set up for success? And these are all Torah concepts. So again, I know I've gone on a long time. I apologize. Ratzon, strategic planning, transitioning, and environmental setup, environmental management. Reb Tzvi.
Yeah, I love it. And I think and you just added at the end that these are all Torah concepts. I think that, whether you're familiar with these concepts for your own personal growth, you ask that question, like, is that something that the Torah really speaks about? Really speaks about strategic planning, right? The Torah speaks about environmental management, speaks about change and transition. And what's really beautiful is that the Torah definitely does. And it's really should be something which is a davar pashut, because, right, as all of us know that HaKadosh Baruch Hu created the world, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu understands the psychology of his creations. Hashem understands the way that we function, and the Torah is the blueprint, not just for how to be able to give tzedakah and how to be able to keep Shabbos, but the blueprint for us to be able to live in the most integrated and the most aligned way is that the Torah is full of this. And something that one of the amazing things I know when we were preparing for this course was just really enjoying like a good piece of kugel, just like enjoying an amazing chazal and just be like, this is like a schmack. Like just to realize, just like reverse principle, like this is something so simple, guys. You ready? The concept of kviyas makom, right? The concept of kviyas makom that we know, and we're all, right now, raise your hand if you're to kviyas makom. Yeah, of course, I heard about that in tefillah. You got kviyas makom, right? That you should have a set place that you should daven in. Okay, whether you do it, you don't do it, you can check up the halacha, how it applies in this shul or that shul. if you look into the sugya, you see the way that it's explained, right, in the Rishonim and the Bali Machshava, where what they're explaining is because a person's external environment is going to impact the output of what's going to take place. The Maral speaks about it. We look through in the Chabura, it's a powerful Maral, right? And the idea of kviyas makom, of setting a set place, even extends beyond the realm of tefillah. And that's really what the idea is you realize that we find hidden with gems within halachos, right, that are guiding us how to function within our Yiddishkeit, are principles for living. And the Torah guides us to be able to get there. And it's tremendously profound. It's just hearing that summary. I know that it's hard to be mitzamtzim, but it's really something which is really exciting, B'ezras Hashem, to be able to go into. But what I want to do right now, because something that we're going to speak a little bit more in a few minutes, but it's one thing to know something via that hayom, right? But to be able to take it and to be able to practice it, like we just heard right now, it's important to time chunk. It's important to develop your priorities. Okay, that's very nice. Okay, and now the shir ends, and now I move forward. But one thing that we focus very much in the Chabura is the realm of putting it into practice. So maybe what we'll do is just take one idea of these four. I like to pick the Avoda of transitions, because it's something which is so simple. It's so easy, as Rav Gerzi always says. It's not difficult, it's different. It's really not hard. It's really simple. It really makes sense, and it's also super easy to forget. I forget to do it all the time. Okay, so maybe we'll just role play. Role play a scenario. Okay, a scenario. Speak about this idea of transition. Right, it's something that I know for myself. I have various different roles that I play. Right, to speak about what does it look like when a person is transitioning well and a person is not transitioning well.
So maybe I can ask you the following question. Coming from your home this evening to here right now to the Avoda room, did you feel you transitioned the way you wanted to transition? Is maybe you experienced a change because you were at home and you came here? Was there something, did you transition, do you feel in a good, healthy way? Is there something that you could have done
Well,
better?
I knew I was going to be doing this Avoda, so for this one I did transition, but I'll tell you lots of times I don't. It's like every morning. So my day starts kind of like your friend over there, of Baruch Hashem. Baruch Hashem, having the opportunity to help my children go off to school. And that's the first thing that I do. So the first role that I'm, my nefesh said thrown into, but okay, the first role that I choose to be into every single morning, right, is a father, And I move from that role, right, into the Beit Knesset, okay, and that's just something which I would say that I struggle with greatly, because I'm in this mode of getting kids out in the morning, which is like, okay, like, don't forget this, do this, okay, this, bus, this, like this, and I'm in that role, making, helping them along, and then it's like, okay, Shachris. So here's an area where I'm not transitioning well, and I would say that how do I know? I know because when I get to shul, and then I take out my tefillin, and I'm like, okay, I need to put on my tefillin right now. It's like, my mind is just like not in a mind of Oimid Lifnei Hashem. My mind is in like peanut butter sandwiches and like the fight that just happened 3.5 minutes ago. So I don't transition well.
Is there something that you feel that can help you transition? Is there something maybe small? Or even if there's something that you can do while you are changing?
Right. So that's like the fascinating thing, because the first question really, for really all of us, is to become aware of these role changes that we have, right? And then that question you're asking me right now is that, do I actually have the opportunity to make that transition, right? Because so for me, I walk to shul. I walk around 7 minutes, right? So I have this walk. I have this period of time.
So that's something which I think is beautiful, because when you're walking,
I have the ability to do it. So that when I showed up, right.
So you could, when you're walking, just an idea, this is brought in the Kuntras HaTfilah by Rav Gerzi in the first Chelek, preparations for Tfilah. So it actually speaks about the transitioning of using your walk to prepare, maybe to do some breathing, or even just to say, I'm now walking to shul to daven. It's not easy. It isn't easy, but the fact that we can speak about it and even bring this up is incredibly beneficial, because maybe tomorrow morning
maybe I'll do a
you're
better job.
going to walk and you're going to remember the conversation that we're having now.
Yeah, and I think that it's thank you very much, Rabbi Gerzi, and I hope that for each one of you that are listening to this, that our hope is that you give some thought and think about this for yourself, just to realize, where am I making shifts during my day? How am I making that transition? Do I have the ability to do something about it? And then what might that look like?
And there's other exercises that one can do, is write out their daily schedule, and you could write next to it where there is a change, and right next to that, what transition is it? And it's very, people don't always realize they're not the only ones that are frazzled. As you said, it's what did you say? One of the videos we recorded, and again, it's beautiful change and transitioning, that when I'm working, it's not like, I'm typing away, I'm writing, it's like, oh no, my mind now just went to a Tosfos. But how comes when I come to daven, I'm davening, Shema Yisrael, Hashem Lakein, oh drat, I gave the wrong sandwich, Hashem Echad. How comes it happens that way, not the other way? So a lot of the time, the change and transitioning it's very real and very important. And that moment of transitioning can sometimes decrease that noise that we hear, and we could be more present and utilizing Ratzon. I care for this. What did we say? I can't remember offhand now. Ratzon. And then making that strategic planning, that I come into the base of Medrash and I just stop, okay, take a breath, if that's what my planning is, and transitioning, kissing the mezuzah. I'm now moving from out of the Beis HaMedrash to into the Beis HaMedrash. And number 4 is environment. I've got my makom kavua. We can make
part of makom kavua is that having a set place helps us settle your mind.
Yeah.
And once again, these are things, these are amazing things that you see coming out today. In the workplace, we could talk about this for a long time. We have podcasts on this, right? That the world is catching up like a Gemara in Brachos. It's like okay, now I understand that if I want people to be productive, right, it's not enough to give them time. It's about giving them also the environment. It's also about giving them the space in order for them to be able to get there. So those just one short example, and I hope that you're able to take that, each one of you that are listening, and to be able to apply it. But what we want to speak about now, is a real question, because I think that as a Frum Jew, everyone needs to be asking themselves this question, right? Is what we've spoken about so far the vision for the way we're meant to live, right? That you're able to step out of, right, the mud of work-life conflict, right? The guilt, the confusion, right? The stress, right? That comes from all of these different parts of our life pulling at us and not giving proper attention, right? So you're able to pull yourself out. You're able to step into a healthy approach of work-life balance, work-life rhythm. You're able to master the Torah's principles for being productive, right, in all areas of your life, right? So you're learning well, you're being a good spouse, you're being a good parent. It's all going well. So is that it? Sounds pretty good. I think it's a lot better than a lot of people are doing. You're probably like nodding right now and being like, yeah, that sounds pretty good. I want that. But that's where the danger is, right? Because the truth is that Hashem had in mind more. Don't be scared of the more. It's good. It's geschmack. What does that mean? So there's this powerful letter that in the Chabura, when we go through the sugya, right, of Rav Hutner, right, that Rav Hutner is responding to a Talmud who was really bothered by this topic of work-life conflict and work-life balance. And Rav Hutner answered him with a very powerful mashal, very powerful example, where he said that what's the difference, right, when you have a person who owns a two-bedroom apartment in New York, right, and then he owns a two-bedroom apartment, right, in Paris. He owns a two-bedroom apartment, right, in people want to live in the UK. They live in the UK, okay, in Eretz Yisrael. There you go, two-room apartment, right. So he has 4 different homes and lives in 4 different places, right? That might be a dream, but if a person who's doing that, right, he's living a multi-layered life. Rav Hutner speaks about a double life. And he says, what's the difference between that person, right, and another person, right, who has a home with 8 rooms? He has those same 8 rooms, but all of those 8 rooms are all under one roof. And with the point that Rav Hutner is trying to emphasize and give over in a powerful way to his Talmud is that Hashem doesn't want us to live a fractured, disconnected life, in which we have our Avodas Hashem, we have my Daf Yomi, right? And I need to do well in that. And then I have my Shalom Bayis, and I need to do well in that. And then I have my Kibbud Avayim, I need to do well in that. Right? And then there's my business, I need to do well in that. And I need to do well in all of these 4 things. But actually, these 4 things have nothing to do with each other. That's what Rav Hutner says is what's called living a double life. Really, the vision that Hashem has for us, right? And this is really the chiddush that I think is me'ala me'ever, anything that we'll find in a secular perspective of how to be able to thrive, right? Is what we call work-life integration. And work-life integration means that everything that we're doing is really unified. Rav Gerzi hinted to it before, right? In a way that is all under one roof.
Razin de razin.
We're moving from one room to another room. Where we're shifting from being a parent, we're moving within one room to another room. And what that means when a person is doing that right, is that person has first and foremost been able to really uncover how the Torah speaks about the echad of everything. Right? One of the Makomos that it hasn't failed me. It's like call over anyone and tell them like this, and they'll be like, nah, that's not really true. Is that it's fascinating is that the Torah refers to Torah refers to a person's job, right? And a person's wife and a person's Torah, all is the same thing. They're all called your wife. They're all called your spouse. That doesn't sound so Jewish. It might be a joke, that's what you're doing. But it doesn't really sound so Jewish. But from a place of work-life integration, when we're living from a place of work-life integration where everything is connected, an amazing thing happens. What happens? What happens is that when we're out in our job, and we're doing professional development, it's not just making us a better accountant. It's not just making us a better real estate agent. What it's doing is actually helping your Torah learning. And when you're in the Beit Shemesh and you're going through a Tosfos, so you're learning Mishnah Berurah, right? That learning that you're doing, right, is helping you in your business. Not just because you know the halacha, but because you've been able to connect in a very deep place, so that you're able to learn one thing from the other. You know, Rav Gerzi was sharing with me before, right, about one of his talmidim who works in coding, right, and through being involved in this limud of pnimius, right, he's been able to see parallels, right, between coding and chassidus. And this isn't something which is new. The Lubavitcher Rebbe has a whole sefer dedicated, speaking about work-life integration, how a person is in different professions. There's something they're going to focus on, B'ezras Hashem, in the course, that whatever profession it is, to be able to develop that thread of connection. And this is be'etzem really what the tzaddikim encouraged us, and we're pushing, the Bali Musar were pushing, the Baal Shem Tov was pushing. And it's not just the Baal Shem Tov, the Bali Musar. This is what Rabbi Kiva was pushing, what Rabbi Nechuni ben Akana was pushing, what Yeshua ben Nun was pushing, what Yaakov Avinu was pushing, right? That we should be people that live integrated lives. And when we live integrated lives, it makes all of the difference. So the question is, how do we get there, right? How do we make that shift of being people that might be stuck in work-life conflict, in whatever shape or form your work-life conflict is right now for you in this stage of life that you're in? How do we make that stage of moving right into work-life balance, work-life rhythm, into work-life integration, which is the way that HaKadosh Baruch Hu ultimately wants us to live? So I'd like to share with you the secret. Okay. I really mean share. I'm going to look at your screen. There you go. Okay. We're live. Okay. So something that we've seen collectively, Rav Gerzi and myself working with thousands of people, right, is that the way to be able to take that journey, right, and to not just get by, but to really, really make it real, right, is through the power of Chabura, right? Expand. Okay. Thank you very much. How do we do that? That's good. Okay, let's say that. Oh, I see. It has not sure. Okay, so we'll move forward. Okay, so the way that the secret of getting that done is through the power of Chabura. What's the power of Chabura? Right, for some of you may have heard of this concept of a Chabura. For some of you, you've heard of the idea of shiurim, but you're not necessarily clear on what Chabura means. So there are 3 core elements of what it means to be in a Chabura. The first is starting with the Torah, right? The Torah is the or, Right? Chazal tell us that ner mitzvah b'torah or, and it's so important whenever you're involving yourself in personal help and you're trying to fix an area of your life, right? You can learn tools and you can learn ideas, but when you discover and you're able to dive into the Torah, that is what gives you the chiyus. That's what really is going to fuel your whole entire journey. And within Chabura, as we go through each one of these topics, right, it's not just to see Mar Makomos, but it's to be able to contemplate for yourself. And that's really what it's about, is where does your life meet this Mar Makom? How do you feel? You see a Chazal, right? You see a Torah from the Rishonim, you see from the Bali Musar. How does this jive with you? So the first element of Chabura is to see the Torah, but to be able to make that Torah real for you. The second element of Chabura, right, is practical Avoda exercises. Right, within Chabura, sometimes you can be in a shir, you hear an idea, and then, okay, you leave that shir, you get up, and now there's another shir. That's not the way Chabura works. The way that Chabura is designed is that with each step along the journey, right, you have a topic that we're going to learn. We'll take a look at some of our topics in a few minutes. But then there's an avoda after you've seen the Mar Makomos and you discussed it, and you have the opportunity to be able to talk it out and to contemplate, right, to be able to apply it into your life, to be able to ask this question, where does this meet my life, my schedule, my family? Right, because it's only when we ask those questions and then through the avodas to learn strategies and to be able to learn avodas of the Bali Musar and from the world of Chassidus, right, from the Masorah that Rav Gerzi has received, and things that you may already know about, but just don't actually apply. Within the realm of Chabura, the emphasis is on the avoda to make it real for you. And the third element of Chabura is mentorship and community. Right, you could sit in a shir sometimes for 1, 2, 7, 10 years, right, and you have no connection to the person who's giving the shir, or no connection to the people who you're sitting next to. I'm going through my own journey of listening to a shir. That is not what Chabura is about. Right, Chabura, the emphasis is on the relationships, right, so that therefore there's a relationship between the people who are teaching the Torah and who are leading the Chabura. Right, so therefore when the Chabura built to our Chabura is having bi-weekly meetings with Rav Gerzi and myself to be able to discuss where am I in this journey, right? And having a community of people so that therefore it's not just you who's going on this journey with yourself, but there are other people, right, who you're able to discuss, to be able to hear ideas, to be able to support, to be able to celebrate together. Right? Those are the three core elements of the Chabura. And what we've had over the last couple of years, as Rav Gerzi said, with the Work Inspired Chabura started just over 2 years ago, right, is an amazing group of people that come from all walks of life. You can see over here some testimonials. We have people that are joining in from Zoom from America, people that are joining in from the UK, right? People that are coming live, people that are listening to recordings, people that are lawyers, people that are handymen, people that are working in high tech, people that are working in business, people that are in the field of coaching. We have people from all different backgrounds, but there's one thing that they have in common, is that they want to be able to make a real change in their life. And what they're bringing into the Chabura, and this is really the type of people that we're looking for in our Chabura, right, are people that are looking to be real, people that are looking to be authentic. And when people bring that authenticity, right, into the classroom, into the discussion, even if you're not able to join live, but you're somebody who's listening, where you're able to both get chizuk, right, and to be able to make real change, and also to be able to collaborate, to be able to contribute. We say at the beginning of every Chabur, we've set certain Mar Makomos curriculum, but this is an evolving journey. And it's been amazing in each topic that we've been through to be able to see how much we can learn from each other. So just to take a quick tour of what we're going to be doing, Be'ezus Hashem, over the next 3 months. You can see over here, I think each one of you've at this webinar, you probably have received it in detail curriculum with descriptions of each one of these classes. But what we're going to be doing together over the next 3 months are taking 3 steps. Right? The first step is going to be excavating the sugya of work-life balance, as we mentioned, to be able to uncover sources and really to be able to dive into the avoda. What I love over here, you see in class 4, 5, and 6, we mentioned before GPS, right, is that this should become real for you. Right? By being in this chabur, you're going to clarify for yourself, however many roles, however many hats you wear, right? What are my goals? What are my priorities? What are my strategies? And to be able to build that in a way that you're going to be able to apply it. Right? In class number 5, right, it's nice to have ideas. We all become inspired to be like, I'm going to make that change. But often it doesn't happen. And class number 5, right, is to be able to dedicate time to realize what may get in my way. What's the reason why I haven't been able to follow through, to become aware of my obstacles and to be able to develop those strategies to be able to overcome them? And then in class number 6, right, is to become futuristic, right, and to really be light years ahead of everyone else, and to recognize, as we said, work-life rhythm is about change, right, and to realize that there are different stages of life, and to realize what happens at different stages of life. Right, so it doesn't just like happen to me like 6 months afterwards. I'm like, wait, why is it not working out? Oh, right, something changed, and figure it out. But to be able to take a look at different stages of life so we can approach it with a greater place of strength. The second step that we're going to be taking, as Rav Gerzi did a very beautiful summary of, is taking a look at these 4 steps of productivity. Because I always fetch to Rav Gerzi, if I only had more time. If I only had more time, and this is what a lot of people think, time management. You want to get stuff done, it's all about time management. We didn't mention time management once. And the reason why is because, from a Torah's perspective, time doesn't own us, so we're not trying to work within time. We actually own time. But putting that aside, right, that what we're going to go through over here is recognizing, right, if I don't have that deep ratzon, if I don't have a strategic planning, you can have all the time in the world, right? If I don't recognize the way that I function, if I don't understand my own external environments, the way I'm built, my internal environments, my distractions, we're going to take a journey through each one of these 4 steps, and then the avoda is going to be there. And what's amazing about these avodas is just uncovering things that you have inside of yourself that we're just not using, like flow state. You see over here in class number 11, right? Flow state is each person has their own way, their own state in which when things just flow. The problem is for so many people is how much time do we actually spend there, right? And through this, what we're going to be learning in the Avoda to be able to access our flow state where we can see, hey, actually I can get a lot more done with a lot less time when I know myself, I understand how I work, and I can accomplish it. As well, when it comes to the key of environment in class number 14, where we just mentioned Kriyas Malkum is one idea. There's beautiful Mamari Chazal that speak about how our external environments can impact us, but then the avoda is take a look at your life, those roles, those conversations you need to have, those jobs that you're doing. It's so relevant in today's age when we can just flip from one thing to the next thing, and Zoom meeting to Zoom meeting, and we work from home, and we are home from work, and we do everything in one big cyberspace, that we can master out and map out our environment. And then finally, the third step that we're going to move into, which is the world of work-life integration, right? To be able to uncover this deep sugya, right, that we find spanning from Chazal into Rishonim, Achronim, Bali Musar, Chasidus, of the way that Hashem envisioned that we can live. And then through learning that, the avodas that we have over here, as we're going to be wrapping up the course, is that you will have the opportunity, we're going to coach you to be able to take a look at your life and realize, where am I living a fractured life? Where am I experiencing that tension from the fact that I'm doing good at my work, I'm doing good with my parenting, but I feel this tension, and how can I heal? How can I create that bridge? How can I build a game plan? So that therefore, you're able to take everything that you've learned in this Chabura and to be able to then take it and live the way that Hashem envisioned that you should be living. So the Chabura, as we mentioned, is a 3-month journey that's going to be starting Be'ezus Hashem on Sunday. And the way that the Chabura is designed, you see over here, we designed a program that creates real change and is flexible to your busy schedule. If there is any Chabura that understands that people are busy, it's ours. Right? The Work Inspired Chabura has been designed for busy professionals, where all of our topics are about money and work, and we understand that. And therefore, we've designed the program in a way that people can either, if you live in Eretz Yisrael, right, it's easier if you live in the Beit Shemesh area, to come in. We're speaking to you right now from Work Inspired headquarters. We have the opportunity to join live, to connect with people, live, to be able to enjoy some of the Gashmias live, to be able to connect. The connections are very, very important. Though we've had always a split. There's always been people that come live, there are people that join in Zoom, there are people that join in Zoom once a week. The Chabura itself takes place twice a week, on Sundays and Tuesdays, right, at 8 o'clock until 8:50 Israel time. 8:10. We're at 8 o'clock. See, we've been on break, I forgot. 8:10, there you go. At 8:10 Israel time until 9 o'clock. That's 50 minutes. Okay, you have to figure that out for your time zone. I'm not going to mention all of them. Okay, and once again, we have people that join online when they can, and then we have people listening to the recordings. Right, the people that are listening to the recordings are people that Baruch Hashem, have gained tremendously from the Chabura. And they're part of the Chabura. They get the mentorship, they get the support. They're paired up, if they'd like, with accountability partners through everything that's being done. But for them, because of their schedule, it helps them to be able to listen to the classes and to do the avodas on their own time. Right? And something that we've seen is that if a person is the right type of person for the Chabura, which means that you want change, you want it, the ratzon is there, and you're somebody who's really willing to be authentic, right? And to be able to be real with your life and to be able to recognize I want to stretch myself out of my comfort zone. That whatever format over here, whether it's live, whether it's on Zoom, it will work. It will work. So it's a 3-month Chabura. There's a $100 per month membership fee, right? Either $100 or 350 shekels. And the program is designed really with you in mind, And Baruch Hashem, we'll come back to this last slide in a second, just to share that, this Chabura is 2 years old, but the vision of Work Inspired is many more years old. And Baruch Hashem, we've had the opportunity to discuss this Chabura with great mashpiyim and great tzaddikim you see in front of you, right? Just some of the haskamas and some of the words being shared of people that understand how much this is needed. And their eyes lit up when they hear about this Chabura because they're like, Zeh, like this is it. Like it's not inspiration, right? It's not just like a daf yomi, but it's mamish hitting the nail on the head, and it's creating a format. And mamish the nachas that these tzaddikim have when they heard about these Chaburas, it's really been a tremendous schus. So, Be'ezus Hashem, how can you join the Chabura? There you go. So what's your call to action, Rabbi Yoni? Did you post it? Done. Okay. So the way that you can join this Chabura, which is starting Be'ezus Hashem on Sunday, right, is to click on the link, which some of you may have seen before, which is our homepage. On that homepage, the way that you'll be able to sign up is by submitting your payment. Right? We have options for different currencies, right? Whichever is most convenient for you. Step 1 is to make your payment. Step 2 is at the bottom of the webpage. There's an email. Make sure to send us an email with so we have your complete details, phone number, so we can put you on our exclusive WhatsApp group list that we have. If you have WhatsApp, an email group list, right? Even if you're not on WhatsApp, that's fine. We'll make sure that you'll be able to get all of the recordings. We'll make sure you'll be able to get all of the extra content that comes out. And Be'ezus Hashem, we look forward to having you into the Chabura. And what I really just ask of you, and I'm going to be quiet and hand it over to Rav Gerzi, is if this speaks to you, that you feel that pinch of, I just feel like there's not necessary, I don't really have clarity in the way Hashem wanted a frum person to live in 2025, right? With all of the tremendous values. Please reach out. A lot of people have reached out to us and asked for a call. Be'ezus Hashem, we're going to be speaking to them this week, and you can also reach out if you haven't yet, right? We can speak and have a call and speak about what's going on in your life. But we had an amazing time over the last couple of years, and we look forward to bringing on some new amazing people.
Chazda Hashem. I've got nothing much more to add. I think you really shared everything so wonderfully. Chazda Hashem. And it really is something that we've done for a long time. We have a strong, good community, and it's growing. And Baruch Hashem, there's we're cutting edge. What I'll say is that we're cutting edge, that we've been doing this for a long time, and our eyes are open, our heart is open to really be as integrated as possible, relevant as possible, and we're trying to speak the language of the Dor. And Be'ezras Hashem, come join in, because there's we have a very good knack of what's the word? Delivering. We over-deliver. We always want to give more. So whatever you join in, and we've said you'll get a lot more Be'ezras Hashem in other areas as well. So Be'ezras Hashem, you should all go from strength to strength.
Thank you very much for coming today. It's
Thank
really
you. Baruch Hashem.
The fact that you've dedicated this time to
very
come
special.
live and it's showing that you believe in yourself, and you believe that life can be the way that Hashem envisioned it. To be able to live with that clarity, to be able to live with that productivity, to be able to live with that well-being, to have direction, just to feel good. I know for myself, just people ask, "How are you doing?" That question. Like, how am I doing? Like, in what? But you should feel good. Hashem wants us to feel good, and a lot of that guilt that comes with feeling like, okay, am I really doing good? Like, I don't know. Like, is this really like the shmooze that I heard, that sicha that I read, that video that I saw? the picture someone posted, is that really how I'm living? You're doing good. And B'ezras Hashem, you'll have the opportunity to be able to understand that in a very deep way. Okay, so we have some time. Questions? Questions. Okay, does anyone have a question? You can unmute yourself, and we'd be happy to